Knowles from Ain't It Cool News, as well as his traveling companion, Quado. Come on out, Harry.
Oh, hey, he's a little shy. Hi everyone, I'm Harry Knowles, and I hope everyone's enjoying the Austin Comic Con. Everybody loving it? You know, I get the wonderful honor of welcoming up onto the stage a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for about 17 years now. He is extraordinarily talented, and he brought some amazing art that's here at the convention I'll let him tell you about. Without further ado, let's bring out Robert Rodriguez.
Hello, everybody. How many of you from Austin? And how many are from out of town? That's pretty impressive.
Well, there's just the three of us up here.
I just saw that weird thing.
So, Robert,
That looks like the real guy.
well,
The original
it's
mold?
out of the mold, yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
They just decided to plug it with red hair because
Oh, I see.
they wanted it to match me. So, Robert, why don't you tell them what's going up on this floor, the fourth floor, in room 11? What is going on there?
Which floor is this right here? Is this we're four? So on this same floor, somewhere's around here, room 11. You have to go see it. You'll never see anything like this. It's probably the coolest thing you can see here at the convention. Frank Frazetta is the godfather of Comic Con. He's the one who started it all. And I'm just grew up, with his posters on my wall. And even when I got into filmmaking, that was the first thing I wanted to do, was make a movie where I could have Frank Frazetta do a movie poster. And I chased him down to do From Dusk Till Dawn.
Well, and the very first time that we got together, you got the Dark Wolf model.
That's right.
And then you got one for me, and then we sat in a room painting a Frank Frazetta character the very first time I ever went to your house.
That's right. That was the one, which one was it, Jack?
Yeah, Jack Warren.
And, but I was just a huge Frazetta fan, and I'll show you, look at the picture I have up right now. Can you switch the photo to what I have on the iPad? Or is that still showing the old? Is that not Danny Trejo right there? That's a lot of my characters come from Frazetta paintings. He had this amazing painting style too, where you see this triangular design. That's what drew people in. People would buy his paperbacks. I mean, he created the look of Conan for the paperbacks. Conan was created in the 30s, Robert E. Howard, but when they were reprinted in the 60s in paperback, people would buy these paperbacks, and they became the biggest selling paperbacks of all time because of the art. A lot of people didn't even read the books, they just bought them because of the art. And this is one of my favorites, is Moonmaid. You see this triangular design. That's very much what I based the Selma Hayek character on in From Dusk Till Dawn. The face painting, and look, there's Trejo and Selma together right there. And that's one of my favorites. I had that on my wall, since I was a kid. This sort of triangular composition is what really gives his work this immediate grab, where you see sort of like the oppressed or the oppressor is either at the top or the bottom, and there again is a very Salma-like character there. Neanderthal is a famous one. That's also here. Oh, mainly what I was trying to get to is in room 11 is a museum that I've put up with a lot of these paintings here that you'll never see again. The Frazetta family is here. Here's Holly Frazetta, daughter of Frank Frazetta. And stand up, Holly. You're so wonderful. A lot of these are hers. And you can't see these in a museum. I mean, it is as fine art get, but it's not considered fine art because they were started as illustration art. So you wouldn't see it in a museum, but we do have a pop-up Frank Frazetta Museum in room 11. You have to go see it. Harry's father was in there bawling his eyes out because he'd only seen one original one ever in his life.
Yeah.
and he saw there's 10 of them in there, including Death Dealer 2, Neanderthal. You'll see when you see Neanderthal in there, that's masonite on the back. He'd run out of canvas that day. He was in a rush, so he just pulled masonite out of the basement and painted right on top and created another classic work. The guy was really amazing. I love this one. This is called...
Well, it's one of those that,
Against
unless
the
you're
Gods.
actually looking at the original, you have no idea that he basically used 2 colors of paint and just used the background to bring the color out. Neanderthal's astonishing work of negative space.
Oh, I see. It's just got a little delay. Here comes Death Dealer, which was one of my favorites. This is like an original character that he created. Death Dealer is that's one of his biggest characters. And Death Dealer is in the house. He's in room 11. You go in there and you'll see this original, and it's just astonishing. You can't capture it in photos and prints. I've come as close as possible. Right outside of the museum, I have a bunch of G-clays that I made that I personally photographed digitally in quadrants to build something that would match the texture of the original, because I would compare them just to preserve them. And they're there for sale, and all the money for the prints and for the T-shirts. I've made some T-shirts that wrap around the art around, and it all goes to benefiting the museum and the family. So definitely go check that out, because it's really once in a lifetime chance. You'll see that I kind of use this composition style whenever I would do anything like a machete. Notice how the triangular design and just trying to draw people's eye. I learned that from Frazetta, just the power of capturing something that draws your eye to it and reveals, like certain information in a certain way. I mean, I do it again and again just in my work, and I learned that from Frank. And I'm going to show you some really kind of cool, compelling video in a minute. That you'll really find astonishing to see how other artists respond to his work, because he became the most influential artist, of the 20th century. People, George Lucas, Jim Cameron, Guillermo del Toro, they'll all tell you how much they were. Anyone who really works in film or art will tell you how inspired they are by Frank Frazetta. In fact, when Frank and I talked about making some projects together, I went and visited him at his house years ago to talk about Princess of Mars, and Harry and I were going to do together. I was interested in doing a Princess of Mars at one point because they were going to make it, and I thought that would be my chance to make a Frazetta film. And I went to his house to look at because he did a lot of the original John Carter or Mars artwork, and that so inspired a look for that. And it's just so influential. I think that even when Andrew Stanton made his version of John Carter, he had to tell his artists to not do Frazetta, because that's all people had in their head. They couldn't get out of their head. And he would say, we can't just rip off Frazetta, don't bring in Frazetta. So they had to go a completely different way with it. But I always felt the Frank Frazetta version was just the classic version. And it was just, this is one of my favorites too. We're selling this sheet clay, which is called Chained. Again, you'll see this incredible triangular construction of a very epic piece. I don't know why there's such a long delay on that thing. It's running slow. Y'all make it switch over there, or is it
So
just ready?
what is the status on? Oh,
There it is.
What is the status on the Frank Frazetta Museum? At what steps in the process are we?
Well, we were going to make a movie called, I'll show you a little bit later, the Fire and Ice footage that we've been working on. When we do Fire and Ice, we would coincide an opening of a museum with that as sort of a way to show people the art and have a movie, Fire and Ice. Almost like with Sin City, I wanted Fire and Ice to be so representative of his work the way Sin City was for Frank Miller's work. And this one we got here as well. This is called Dark Kingdom. It was in a Molly Hatchet rock cover once in the 70s. But it's just a fantastic piece. I'm going to show you something. First I'll show you Frank Miller's reaction to seeing these originals for the first time. Oh, this is a funny story. Yeah, when I talked to Frank Frazetta about going back to the iPad, about doing Dust Till Dawn as a painting for a movie poster. He saw Salma Hayek and said, where'd you find that babe? I mean, I've always wanted to paint a babe like that before. I mean, a lot of the women that he paints, and I said, well, if you look at how I dressed her, she looks like your girls. And he said, you don't need anything else on the poster but her. And I said, well, we got to put the other actors in. So he kind of squished them there at the bottom. And then he didn't even bother to draw the creatures. He just put his monkey guys down there that he always draws, which I thought that was just fantastic. But he made it all about her. But he was an amazing character. So I'm gonna put on a video here, just so you can see kind of someone's reaction to this work for the first time. Okay, go to video. I'm gonna put on Frank Miller checking out the paintings, and I told him I had a surprise for him, but he didn't know what he was gonna see.
Oh shit, this is great. This is Frank Frazetta, the maestro. Look at the composition. Everything about that is perfect. She's perfect. The monster is perfect. The background is genius. Oh, shit. Well, this is erotic as a piece gets. It's the best butt in painting. It's brilliant. It's not like brilliant. I can't believe that you have these in your home.
I'm actually taking it out on the road for people to see it in person.
Well, I like your ass, you know. Was that he knew what dreams were. I just will always admire him and what he did, and the fiction he crafted with his painting. Wish I could do the same.
A couple of months ago, I get a call from Robert, and he's like, Harry, come over to my house. I got something to show you. And I come into the house, and he's like, okay, you have to close your eyes. And then he got behind me, started pushing me. I was being pushed for a while. And then next thing I know, I open my eyes, and I'm in a room filled with Frank Frazetta paintings. And, you know, growing up, my father was one of these guys who opened the first comic shop in Texas. I was raised in the era of all these paintings coming to life. I mean, the prints were coming in the store, we were selling stuff. So much detail in those prints from the 70s just was not captured at the time at all. I mean, the Moon Maid, where you see Frank Miller like losing his mind over the butt. Like, on the print, you can't see the redness on the butt from riding the centaur. Like, it makes perfect sense. There's a logic to why her butt is red. She's not being spanked, and she's riding a horse. You know, but you didn't get that detail from any of the books that you look at. I mean, this is really a chance to see the master's exact color composition, the way it's not filtered through a digital lens, it's filtered through your eyes.
That's what's amazing.
You have to see it.
When I grew up with those books, I discovered them in a bookstore. They had put out this Valentine series of 4 Frank Frazetta books of his art. And I would cut them out and put them on the wall. And I thought those were amazing. But once you see the original and compare them, they look like Xerox copies compared to
You ever
the
try to
originals.
trace them or try
They're
to
so,
recreate them?
my books are so full of indentations from all the times I traced them. That's kind of where I learned how to draw anatomy, was from tracing Frazetta books. And Frank really preferred that people saw them in person. And what was really unique about Frank Frazetta is that he, even though he was an illustrator, most people who were illustrators lost all their original works because they were works for hire. They were not considered fine art, they were assignment work. Frank kept all his originals, most of them, and had them in a museum set up adjacent to his house there in his ranch, where you could go make the pilgrimage up there and see his work. He wanted people to see it, you know, in all its power. And I got to go visit him to go get some of that juju to see if I wanted to do Princess of Mars. And when I decided not to do that movie, I did Sin City instead. I still wanted to do a Frank Frazetta movie. I played around with the idea of doing a Conan movie. And then also, until finally, Harry and I thought of getting the rights to Fire and Ice and doing Fire and Ice, which is the only film Frank ever worked on with Ralph Bakshi, to try to recreate his world. And even then, that was done on more cell animation. It didn't really capture the look of his paintings. We thought, what if we could take the look of his paintings and step into them the way you step into the world of Sin City, and do that with Frank Frazetta. And so I have some video here of me visiting Frank Frazetta in 2005, and I spent the day with him there, talking with him in his house, and I knew he had a museum, but I thought maybe there'd be 5 or 6 paintings in there. I had no idea there were going to be, you know, the 100+ paintings that he had in there, and with all the classics. I mean, all the Conans, all the Death Dealers, all. And so my video work is terrible because I'm not really videotaping, documenting like this. I'm astonished, and I have the camera kind of recording down here while I just look at it with my real eyes. But you see me getting toured around with Frank as he tells me how quickly he painted some of them. Some of them he did in a night, some of them he did in 2 or 3 days, some of the biggest masterworks. And just how easy it was for him. He was gifted. He didn't paint from photographs or from models. He painted all out of his imagination. And I love that that was just pure imagination that he would come up. He would create his own physiques. He would create his own worlds. He would create things right out of his mind, and nobody else could do that. And do it as successfully as him. He's still the best, and no one will ever be like him. And so here I'm walking in and just astonished at what I'm going to see. And that's the feeling you'll have when you walk into our little mini museum here that has 10 of these classics. Oh my God, that's my favorite. Wow, it's got all those grades in here. So clever. This one I traced this one. This one I traced so many times. Did you see the real one now? Wow. That's great. That's a lot like Fire and Ice. He looks a lot like Fire and Ice. It was before I thought it was really good.
You're right.
That's great.
Yeah, that's the one that's
I'm glad you got to keep all your originals. How did you?
Yeah, I kept them.
where they'd be now, just sitting.
Oh, yeah, nobody appreciates them.
No, everybody appreciates these. This is, I love that one. Like, I love how they're just almost floating as he's just moving so quick.
Yeah, but this one I like.
This one here? Yeah. And I love this one. Oh my God, look at that. It's like, what is that?
You see, it's all flat, but this main thing part is it goes down.
And there was another version of this. Did you just redo it or did you paint over it? You painted on top of this or was it
Well, I mean, it was there, but I just painted away to it. I got some more.
That face is unbelievable. Did you enjoy working bigger or on a smaller canvas?
Small, really. I did.
This is just a classic. I traced that one so many times as well.
Some more.
Yeah.
Well, that's, when I did that, people were busy. He's joking, he's washed up. Words to that effect. Well, that pissed me off. I sat down and I did 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 beauties.
Well, what point was that? This was in the 70s?
Right after 72.
People said you were washed up. That's good. It lights a fire on you and you go, oh yeah? Wow, death dealer. Wow, that's great. I wish the world could, or that people could look like this.
Yeah, well, that's all this
Physiques. It's really just, but look at the pain, the stubby arms, the facial gestures.
Did you see what's going on? See that fire down there?
Carrying them off.
What they cook. I'll tell you that. Of those up there, 1, 2, 3. 1 day. 4 1 day. 5 1 day. 6 1 day. What are you doing now? That's just small.
So this is a week's work? This is a week's worth of work up on the wall, Frank?
That's a week. That's right. That's what you measure it.
Yeah, it's very fantastic, you know?
Yeah, this one here. This was 1 day.
I love that one. When I was a kid, I traced that many, many times. When I was about 12 years old, I think I drew that 100 times right out of the book.
Yeah, you came back like a religious fanatic after that visit. I think you called me from the museum.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they were all in there. I couldn't believe I spent the whole day talking to him in his little house when he had a few originals. And then we walked in there and it's like, this is what you have them all here? That's insane. That story he was telling was really funny because the years that he did stuff, you see mostly, 60s, and then there's a spurt in the 70s with these big ones like Civil Warrior and Death Dealer and At the Earth's Core. What he was saying was that people at that time in the early 70s he read a couple of articles that said that he was washed up and finished because some new guys, probably Boris Vallejo or somebody was coming up, and it had pissed him off. So did 1, 2, 3, 4 beauties, and there were those big masterworks. Cranked him. I said, shut them all up. So he was like, he worked really fast. If he had a deadline, he would go and he would crank something out, or if somebody said something that had ill effect, he would go and show them up. And he was a fantastic character and artist.
Frazetta just understood how to present a figure in a way that just felt like you could imagine the frames before and after. You could imagine the history of these characters. But more than anything, like his women look like real women instead of these fake women that you see too often in films. And I mean, comics and everything else. I mean, they're breasts that are shaped correctly. There's no implants in any of them. It's amazingly beautiful women.
So the idea to do a movie like that, like Fire and Ice, we call it Frank Frazetta's Fire and Ice, is to go into his imagination, like we did with Sin City, to go in there and see how he saw the world, because he had such a particular way of using color and form and just the medium, and something that was so inspiring, and people have seen these images, even if you don't know him by name. A lot of these, as you see him, you go, oh, I've seen that before. So it's this sort of collective unconscious that we have with these images that we've just grown up with them because they were so popular. That that's like doing a movie based on something that people know without thinking of it as a property, but it is in a way because it's a collected shared images that he created.
The whole idea of Frazetta's work going down to cell animation, that's the opposite direction, because it's taking more detail out of the work, and like to do Fire and Ice, to bring it to that Frazetta level of detail and ferocity, I think is going to be amazing.
Who's seen the original Fire and Ice? I mean, I still love the movie.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
He worked on that, and he directed some of the action, and you can tell that some of the physicality. But again, yeah, it was cell animation because it was an independent film. They didn't have the money. They had to do it, very economically, and it was pretty much even unfinished when they put it out. So I'm going to almost help him finish. I want to help him finish that movie that he had envisioned. That's the idea on doing a Fire and Ice, with his work, is to try to create that finished piece that he had only imagined and wasn't able to because of the means and the technology available at the time. He couldn't make it look like what he would do if he was able to direct it and make it with unlimited resources. So that's the goal of that project. That's why I'm always talking about it, because I'm so excited about it. So these pieces that we have here are just amazing. They're some of the biggest ones, like I mentioned. So do yourself a favor, go see it. You'll never forget it. It'll never seem like that again. There is a donation at the door, I think of $10. That also goes to the family for helping to bring it down here, because the art is so valuable that it has to be transported and insured and all that. So it's expensive to kind of bring it all here. But Frank's always wanted people to see it, and when he passed, the paintings had to be put into a vault. So now the only way you can see them is if you come to things like this, where we put this on, just to carry that dream of his of having people see his art and appreciate it in person. So this is here for you, so go see it. And if you want some of the prints that I made, I shot them special off the paintings. You can buy one of those. That also benefits the family and the endeavor of moving these around the country so that you can see the museum in person. And they're collectors. I only did a limited edition of them and photographed them there in my house as they would come in, and with a special look at the detail the way that I know he would want to have it captured.
Well, Frazetta teaches us all to dream better. So if you go to the museum on this floor and you watch those things, you're going to have the best dreams tonight. Not necessarily erotic, but fantasy dreams. I mean, it's just there's they're just so amazing. I mean, the one with the giant, like, genie type character that came along. What was that one?
Swamp Demon.
Yeah. It's
Swamp Demon's here.
It's what you've always wanted a genie to look like. I mean, as close as we ever got was Thief of Baghdad with Rex Ingram, that, Frazetta's was more powerful.
Well, great artists inspire, and Frank was a great artist who inspired so many people. That to honor someone like him is to honor all artists. So when you go and look at his work and appreciate it, it kind of gives you an appreciation for what all artists do, especially that traditional paint on canvas. One of my actors, DJ Catron, is here. He's our new From Dusk Till Dawn television series. He was drawing on the set, and we were talking about that, how so much can be drawn on a computer these days, but for people to actually have the talent to sit there and draw by hand with a medium and make it happen in one shot, I mean, it's a pretty amazing gift to have and a talent to cultivate. And Frank was the best. And when you look at that stuff, you realize nobody will ever come along that will ever top that. And that's pretty amazing to look at. I'll show you what we're planning, some stuff from Fire and Ice, just to give you a little taste of. This isn't what it would look like. This is just some of the concept art, but you can see that even dabbling in the concept art is so exciting. It's not quite the look yet because it's just concept art, but taking his color palette and his sense of form, we've already started, pretty early work on it. Just to give you something here, just to gander at as a fan of like his
This is
paintings.
your bride, my son.
I need the driving laws.
It's now a new concept art and this idea to take that and expand it and finish it. There's a look at very nice. The video's still playing. What's fun about finding concept artists?
So how far away is this for everyone to see?
We're starting it next year for the 2014. Finding concept artists for that was interesting. I was looking at resumes of people's work, and it was so easy to pick because you'd see people's art, and you could tell that without them maybe even being conscious of it, they really were very Frazetta inspired in their resumes. So many pieces, you could see exactly which paintings they had referenced subconsciously. You go, okay, this guy's obviously a Frazetta fan, let's hire him. This one too, let's hire him. And that's why this stuff looked so great. They were just emulating their master. And so many people, again, were just so inspired by him that it made it easy to kind of pick for people to join the whole cause. So again, come visit us there in room 11. There's going to be some posters there and t-shirts and hats and all benefits the museum and the family.
Before we go, can you give us an update on what's going on with the latest Sin City chapter?
Sin City 2 will come out in August. I've already finished the edit. It looks amazing. We shot it in 3D. It's got an incredible cast. A lot of the characters from the original ones are back.
We're going to see this in 3D.
And it's going to be shot in 3D. And it looks crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, that's getting immersed in that world. It's so immersive that you feel like you look down, you imagine your arm will look in black and white. That's how much it feels like you're inside that Sin City world. And I'm very excited about that one. And currently here in Austin shooting From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series, because that will for our network. I'll show you a little piece on what that is in case you don't know. This is going to be launched next month. But in March will be the Coming soon. The television near you. We have a soft launch next month, and then our first original program will come in February, and Dusk Till Dawn will premiere probably around South by Southwest time.
You're still shooting that?
We're shooting. I shot the pilot and the second episode. It'll be 10 episode series following those characters, and it's really cool, really fun, and we'll be just creating a lot of programming right here out of Austin.
All right. Well, let's give it up for Robert Rodriguez. And folks, go check out the Frank Frazetta Museum on this floor. You will not be able to live with yourself if you don't do it. It is friggin' astonishing. And it's open tomorrow as well, right?
Yeah, tomorrow. Today and tomorrow.
All right, so check it out. Now.
I'm heading over there right now.